Broncos country, what is poppin', man? It's your boy Mark Q with Marky Sports. And as we get closer and closer every day to the Broncos training camp starting, obviously we know we got about 5 weeks left until it gets underway. There's a lot of phenomenal camp battles that we're going to be looking at on all the positional groups. And one of them that I think might be the most exciting to track, to be honest with you, is the inside linebacker position. We know one of the starters. He was one of the prize free agents this last offseason in Dre Greenlaw. But after that, and who's going to start next to him is going to be very, very convoluted. There's going to be some really good competition. And I'm going to break down all the different linebackers that we have currently on the roster. And then after that, I'll give you guys my prediction as to who I think is going to make the 53 and what this linebacker room is going to be looking for. So hope you guys looking forward to that, man. Like and subscribe if you're not already. And you know what? Let's just get right into it. How about that? So, all right, let's break down the inside linebacker room for the Broncos. Certainly one of the weak spots in our defense last year. We didn't have many weak spots on the defense as we had a very, very good unit overall. But the inside linebacker position was certainly a glaring hole that we had, and it did not help once our starter and, guy that's been really one of the team leaders for the last few seasons, Alex Singleton, went down and tore his ACL early in the season. So getting him back is going to be a huge key for us in terms of seeing where he is and adding to the level of competition. But he also has a contract scenario right now to where the Broncos can move on from him and actually save quite a bit of cash, quite a bit of cap space, which if ultimately that's what happens, could help with other deals, extensions that we need to do with, guys that we've talked about, Sutton, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, Nick Bonito, Malcolm Roach, just to name a few of some guys that could get early extensions before they hit free agency next year. But let's break this down one by one. So Dre Greenlaw, we already know, guys, he's the easiest one to predict on here. If he is healthy, he is going to be the starter. He's one of the best inside linebackers in the entire NFL. Extremely well-rounded. He's a team captain, team leader, someone that, thrives in the run game, also thrives in the passing game. He is undersized, no doubt about it, but he's unbelievably good. And he's a massive, massive, massive upgrade for what it is that we had for several years prior to this last season. So Dre Greenlaw, happy, can't wait to see him out there for training camp. Hope that he can get 100% healed from the quad injury that he had sustained in the offseason and have a clean bill of health moving forward, because the success of him and the defense is gonna very, very much be predicated on his performance and his ability to stay healthy overall. So we know that. Again, number 2 here is Alex Singleton, who we touched on. A player that is, really, I would say the opinions on him throughout Broncos country are very split. You got a lot of guys that really like his game. I fit in that category. I love Alex Singleton. You got other guys that don't really like him. And I get it, because he was always the best linebacker that we had. And he certainly had his downfalls, right? He's not very good in coverage. He did have a tendency to miss tackles here and there, but the reason I really liked Alex Singleton's game is because he just brings this energy and this juice and this fire to the defense, and I really liked it. But we have high expectations now, man, not just as a defense, but as a team in general. And just, showing good effort and playing with your hair on fire is not going to cut it now. Our standards are certainly lifted, so that's not going to, make Alex Singleton just automatically be locked in as the linebacker starting opposite of Dre Greenlaw. We're going to have to see how he comes back from his ACL. By all accounts, so far, he's looked pretty good. And if he can, I would say even raise his level of play, then there's not going to be many guys personally on this roster that I think can just for sure be better. We're going to have to see how camp figures out. But Alex Singleton is a huge wild card there. Drew Sanders, finally, the identity crisis for Drew Sanders is over. He is going to be a full-time, inside linebacker. That's where he's going to be worked. That's where he's going to be coached. And that's something that I certainly think is going to be important for him. Thing about Drew Sanders, still a young player. Obviously, he was a third-round pick just a couple years ago in Sean Payton's original, first Broncos draft class. Drew Sanders was the guy that he had signed, an athletic freak. Played at Alabama, then transferred over to Arkansas. Very productive. Played inside linebacker. Played on the edge. Versatility was great. He's a hell of an athlete, but has had really bad injury luck since he's gotten in. Obviously, last year, early on, I think it was in May, he popped his Achilles. Ends up returning late in the season. So we talked about this at nauseum. Definitely felt like he returned a lot earlier than they needed to, but obviously it shows where the coaching staff is with him and how they feel about him. They truly like him a lot to the point where they activated him late in the season, even though he wasn't, close to being himself. So Drew Sanders, I think, is going to get the number one opportunity to be the starting Mike linebacker outside of Dre Greenlaw or next to Dre Greenlaw. He's going to get a whole bunch of looks, and it's going to be a massive opportunity for him in his NFL career, kind of a do or die year. And then we got a lot of really fun, exciting players, and some of these guys that we don't really know too much about, right? So starting with Lavelle Bailey, he was the undrafted free agent that made the team last year. Really shined in the preseason, made some great plays at a 96-yard pick six that really helped him get onto the roster. So he made the initial 53. I think eventually he was cut, and then he was put on the practice squad for a lot of the year. But Lavelle Bailey is, to me, a really interesting player, I think, because he's someone that they liked him a lot last year. George Payton talked about how much he liked him. They liked the athletic ability. They liked the fact that he was young. He plays with his hair on fire. And I think that they truly believe that he's just going to get better and better as, going into year two, as time goes, as he gets more reps, and as maybe he gains a little bit more weight in the offseason as well, which maybe he did. We'll get some reports on that. But Lavelle Bailey was someone that was 6'2" and 225 coming out of Fresno State. So it's going to be interesting that he put a little bit of size on. Does he still have the speed and athleticism? Very similar to Dre Greenlaw. Like, he's not a big linebacker. He's not a very big guy, but he's someone that I think is just kind of flies around and does this thing. And personally, if you're asking me, I believe that he's going to be the dark horse in terms of all these guys, looking at just the list of these inside linebackers. I think he's the dark horse that really has an opportunity to not just make this team, but maybe even get a lot of snaps playing linebacker. But at the bare minimum for Lavelle Bailey, I don't know if he can for sure be a really good special teams player or a good enough special teams player, but I think just his talent and the trajectory that they feel like he's going to be on, I think he's going to have a really good chance to make this roster. Speaking of special teams, Justin Sternad, man, he's been one of the special teams aces, the better special teams player that we've had for several years now. He finally got his opportunity last year to play a lot on defense and be the starting linebacker once Singleton went down. And to his credit, man, he really took advantage of that opportunity. He showed that he could play in this league. He had a lot of really good plays. I think his overall performance started to dwindle a lot as the season went on. But overall, just a solid player. And when you have somebody that's a veteran that is a really good special teams player and can fill in as an inside linebacker when needed, it's always very valuable to have. But it's going to be interesting for him because, you have to look at Drew Sanders as an addition to this room now that he's really being coached to be a inside linebacker, and that's where he's going to be playing full time. And then obviously with the addition of Dre Greenlaw, it makes things a little bit cloudy for Justin Sternad. So we'll get into projections and what I think ends up happening for this roster. But he's someone that I'm really happy decided to re-sign with us in the offseason on a one-year deal. I think he's a very valuable piece to have depending on how these guys perform as camp goes. And then you got the newest additions to this room. All of these guys, J.B. Brown, Kareem Reed, and Jordan Turner, are all undrafted free agents that we had brought and signed. J.B. Brown being the one that we paid the most amount of money to, $150,000 guaranteed, a $10,000 signing bonus for him coming out of Kansas. Very productive player while he was there. He was at Kansas for 2 years, and then he played previously 3 seasons at Bowling Green. So he's played in 55 career college games. Extremely experienced player. That's always a big positive. Now, why is it that he kind of didn't get drafted or fell off and was more of a priority free agent? Well, it's, one of them is because he's, again, a little bit of an undersized guy. Not the most athletic player that's going to blow things off the screen, but I think his intelligence, his ability to be, a leader, very productive player is going to be very helpful. He's someone that you look at and you say, you like his chances of being able to make a roster because of the experience that he's got, and maybe he can play some special teams, but you don't really know what the ceiling is for somebody like a J.B. Brown. But anytime you get an undrafted free agent and he gets $150,000 in guarantees, they obviously like him a lot. So he's gonna get his fair share of opportunities. Kareem Reed, another undersized linebacker, somebody that can really fly around though, coming out of Utah. He's an interesting player to me. A little bit of an older prospect at 25 years old, but again, lots of experience playing in college. Played 4 seasons there at Utah. 6 foot 231, and we'll see what ends up happening with him. But again, someone very productive, but a little bit undersized, not the best athlete. It seems like that's the trend that we're looking for. I mean, when you look at all of these linebackers, the biggest guy that we have by far and away is Drew Sanders in terms of height and weight. Everyone else would be considered a undersized linebacker in terms of what middle linebackers in the NFL are. But that's kind of the way the league is going. They don't care so much about the 255-pound run stuffers. They want the hybrid body types, the guys that are maybe, very big safeties like a JL Skinner type of size, a big safety that can, command the middle of the field and use their instincts and their speed to be able to go out there and make plays. So Kareem Reed definitely fits the mold there. And then you go to Jordan Turner, and Jordan Turner is an interesting guy. Again, 6'1", 231. So not the tallest guy, not the biggest dude, a little bit undersized for sure. Here's what you kind of like about him, right? So again, very, very experienced player in college. Played 5 seasons, 4 of them at Wisconsin, before last year going to Michigan State and playing. So he played in big time programs, which is a big positive. But here's the cool thing about Jordan Turner. Jordan Turner wasn't actually even originally an undrafted free agent that we signed. We brought him in as one of the rookie tryout players in rookie minicamp. He impressed so much that they ultimately ended up signing him as an undrafted free agent. So kudos to him. That in and of itself should tell you a lot about the kind of person and the resiliency that someone like a Jordan Turner can show. But, 29 games playing in college at linebacker, and, like I said, pretty damn productive in his time there. So he's going to be a really interesting name to keep an eye on as well. I think that ultimately he's going to be a practice squad player, but we're going to have to see. So let's get into what I think is going to be the projected roster starters for this team, or the guys that are going to end up making the 53. It's really important of note that last year, and really for several years prior, the Broncos have always kept only about 4 inside linebackers on the 53. Because outside of the 2 starters, having 2 depth guys and at least one of those 2 being able to play special teams is obviously extremely important. There's no need to have 5 inside linebackers on a team if they don't have the versatility. Now, because Drew Sanders can play on the edge, that could switch things around a little bit. But this is how I ultimately believe that the starters will look. I personally believe that in week 1, the linebacker room will be made up of Dre Greenlaw, obviously playing one of the starting middle linebackers, and Drew Sanders is going to be the middle linebacker 2 starting next to him. I just feel like, this is a handpicked guy from Sean Payton. They obviously love something about him and his work ethic and his character. If he can stay healthy and have a really, really good offseason and finally just have a full, healthy offseason, I don't think he's had that since he's been in the league. He's going to be able to make a lot of strides and I think be a very productive player for him. And I think he's going to get the first crack at it, and I do ultimately believe he's going to be the starter. Especially because what's nice about having Dre Greenlaw is that he's capable of being very good in the pass game and very good in the run game. So you just got to find somebody opposite of him that thrives in at least one of those 2. Is either really good against the run or really good in coverage, and the rest is history. Drew Sanders projects to be very good in both. He really does. And like I said, if his body can hold up and he can return to his college form from an athleticism standpoint, I think he's going to have a really good chance. Then I have the 2 guys making the team behind him at Lavelle Bailey and J.B. Brown. As you can see, I just talked up Justin Sternad, but I think he could certainly be the odd man out here. And I'll tell you guys why. One of the main reasons he's made the team, well, actually the main reason he's made the team since we drafted him in like 2019 or 2020, whenever it was, is because of his special teams ability. Well, this last offseason, we got Darren Rizzi, a new special teams coordinator, and he made it an emphasis to get more special teams guys, right? We drafted Q Robinson, who Nick Saban has said when he was in Alabama, the best special teams player that he's ever coached. So that's a big check mark in terms of the kind of special teams ability that he has. They signed Sam Franklin Jr., right? Who's technically a safety, but he's someone that they felt like was an elite special teams player. They brought him in here. He's going to have a really good chance. I think he's going to be a lock to make the team, can provide depth at safety. He can do that. Delaren Turner-Yell is another good safety, but we've had him on the team, but he's a good special teams player. And then obviously, I'm blanking on the name now, of course. Trent Sherfield Jr., right? The wide receiver, one of the best special teams players. He replaces Tremont Smith. And as someone that can come in and contribute on special teams, he's going to be the special teams gunner, one of the better special teams player. So when you look at that, you say, all right, one of those guys can easily replace whatever role Justin Sternad was playing on special teams. You also don't know how Lavelle Bailey and JB Brown are going to be a special teams player. They could end up being very elite or very good in that department as well, to the point where they feel comfortable going with the young guys that are developmental, that can, play on the defense if needed and really go in that direction. This isn't what I would like. I mean, I personally find so much value in having someone like Justin Sternad on the team, not just because of his special teams ability, but because he proved that he can be a plug-and-play guy on the defense. Obviously, that's very valuable to me. But we're going to have to see, man. Like I said, if Lavelle Bailey has a really good offseason and shows that he's going to take a big leap from year 1 to year 2, and JB Brown, given the fact that they gave him all that guaranteed as an undrafted guy, can come in and do things really good to the point where they're comfortable enough, if they needed to, they could always have Justin Sternad on the practice squad. They could always do what they did last year and sign vets like Zach Cunningham to the practice squad as well. Like any of those veteran guys that, in case of injury, could always be moved up. It's a pretty common thing. Last year, the Broncos ended up parting ways with Jonas Griffith at this time for that exact reason. I think he ended up getting hurt, but regardless of the injury, I think he would have probably not made the team. Again, a veteran player that you felt like in a pinch, if you needed him to start, they could. But they ended up parting ways with him because they wanted to go for the younger guys, and that's what I ultimately believe will happen. I don't see a scenario where they'll keep 5 linebackers, but like I said, because Drew Sanders has a little bit of versatility, they probably could. I don't think, but then again, if you really are banking on Justin Sternad being a practice squad player, there could easily be a team out there that would add him to the team, knowing that he can play linebacker and be a really good special teamer. So it might be really hard to get him onto the linebacker, to the practice squad, and he might not necessarily even want to get on there. So that's how I ultimately think that it's going to shake out. If it was up to me, I would probably go with Justin Sternad and then put JB Brown as one of the practice squad guys. But I think you can almost bank it that Jordan Turner and Kareem Reed are both going to be practice squad players for this team as they continue to develop for those undrafted guys. It's going to be really interesting to see, man. I want to know what you guys' thoughts are. Who do you think are going to be the 4 or maybe 5 inside linebackers that are going to make the 53? I do give this room an overall C+. And the reason is because, listen, if Dre Greenlaw is healthy and he plays the full 17, he's going to easily be able to raise that grade, and he raises the ceiling and the floor of this room a lot, which is not really saying much, but he could be very, very elite. But there's a lot of unknowns behind Dre Greenlaw, and also one of the unknowns is his health. He's had an injury history. That's something that we obviously need to be cognizant of. And so if he gets injured, this room just took a really, really big dive, a step backwards. Another guy that we didn't talk about here is Alex Singleton. I love Alex Singleton, and I would love to see him make the team. But the fact that you can save like $7 million roughly by cutting him, it just makes too much sense. Like, it's, unless you can redo the deal with him or get him onto a more team-friendly contract, which he might be willing to do, it's going to be very tough for Alex Singleton to come in and make this team, in my opinion. If he looks really good and Drew Sanders just doesn't seem, it's not clicking, he's the most obvious safe choice. But Sean Payton, man, and Vance Joseph, they've proven that they don't necessarily like to go the safe choice. They'd rather just have guys play, especially when they're next to an experienced vet like Greenlaw that can cover up a lot of the mistakes they're going to make early. If they can really develop these guys and think about the future at that position without hindering the present all that much. So this is ultimately what I think is going to end up happening. Alex Singleton could be someone that we end up trading as well. You never know. There might be a team out there that'll throw us a 7th round pick, or we can swap some late picks to be able to ship him off there. So we will see. But love to know what you guys think below, man. Until the next video, y'all take it easy. Go Broncos, and peace.